All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting conversation from two men in black and white and honest conversation. All right, folks, what are we on? Day 767 of the Trumpstein files, still dominating the news. Democrats have now proposed an old, let's say, archaic law to force the DOJ to release some of the Epstein material. However, it doesn't look like it's going to succeed as the Republicans keep prodding along, destroying our democracy. Chuck Schumer continues writing strongly and tersely worded letters. Once again, he's penned another one that nobody seems to give a damn about. Thank you, Chuck. And really, Chuck, UTF. What the actual fuck? My partner in crime, Brock Ganeles, joins us now with a look at what's happening out there in Trumpstein world, and Brock, it's still dogging him. You know, today I saw some of the pundits talking about this guy just committing crimes in broad daylight. I mean, have we actually stopped to talk about the fact that this guy's getting a $500 million plane and then passing $1 billion bill on to taxpayers so they can retrofit it, fix it, scan it, survey it, and make sure it doesn't have any kind of, espionage type devices on it. They're going to take it apart, put it back together again, and it's going to cost you and me $1 billion. And he's going to take it home, and it's going to be his. Like, in what world does that work?
Well, look, that playbook for the Qatari plane is the Epstein file playbook for Trump, which is just weather the storm, argue against it, justify things in one way or another, and just sort of run out the clock on the attention span of the American people, because we haven't talked about the Qatari plane since, right? He just ended up accepting it, and he's getting his way, right? It's accepted, we're paying for it, it's getting retrofitted, and it's his. So every element that he wanted ended up being the winning hand, because we lost interest and moved on to something else, and because we as American people don't do anything about anything. So the Epstein files, he's just playing the run out the clock game. There is zero chance some congressional, mandate to DOJ is going to net anything, because Pam Bondi is going to say no. And then what is the recourse for the Democrats? They have none. They have no lever of power, and will just get bullied into submission on that topic. It's the American people that are going to have to get fed up, and we're not there yet. So we're sitting and watching and complaining, but no one's doing anything about anything. And Trump's just going to, we're hoping that really the left, we're hoping that MAGA and QAnon is mad enough about the Epstein files that they don't let it go.
Right.
Because the left, we will let it go. We'll let it go. We'll move on. We'll get bulldozed. We're hoping the right fights harder than we're willing to.
And that was Cory Booker's position yesterday on the Senate floor. And Cory just blew up the Democrats. He didn't blow up Republicans. He blew up Democrats for not fighting hard enough, for letting shit go, right? For just saying, it's them. Let them do it again. Let's make a deal with them. Amy Klobuchar and those folks are going to make a deal, on law enforcement funding or law enforcement equipment or more military aid for local law enforcement, right? Because that's what they need, right? Like the ICE agents don't have enough freaking machine guns to snatch.
We need tanks behind them.
Exactly. To snatch people working in the garment district out from under their sewing machines, right? Because that's what you need, a howitzer for that.
Because Amy Klobuchar thinks the white people in Minnesota want that. Like, she thinks she's serving her constituents by moving in that direction. Like, is that the motivation behind it?
I don't understand what these people think, Brock, because, the Republicans are running roughshod over the Democrats. The Democrats are so soft. Jerry Nadler's getting primaried by a guy who's 26 years old. And this guy is out here saying, look, you've got to retire, bro. Your age is now become an issue, right? Yeah. Because you're not physically able to fight harder, right? Or just not willing to, whatever it is. You've been doing this too long, and you need to get out of the way and get some fresh blood in here who's willing to go toe-to-toe.
Fight in a different way. Look,
exactly.
I just kind of made the conscious decision to pass it by and go, okay, we're going to start with Chuck Schumer. Let's go back, because we could have started with Chuck Schumer and just said, the fact that you brought him up I had just once again had forgotten that he's still in his fucking seat and he will
Yeah.
not give it up, right?
Nope.
Chuck Schumer is
Nope.
he's still in there writing letters thinking he thinks somehow in his mind that he's the
He's
right
doing.
person for
He's
the job and that he's the person who's like standing up and like they just can't read the room and there's no self-awareness of these.
none.
I just there's something wrong with being a politician. People think that's the only thing they can do in their lives, and they just are holding on to the seats for dear life. That's why it's funny. I just got a text today from the Democratic Party, something about like youth for change, and I was thinking, wait a second, is this actually the party sending something to me about wanting a donation because they have some sort of youth movement going on? Like
Yep.
bullshit. You just kind of dispelled David Hogg from the party leadership. And now you're telling me you have a youth movement, but he got kicked to the curb? Like, you
Right.
think I'm cutting a check for that? You're crazy.
Out of your
I'll
mind.
cut a check to David Hogg to get real to primary people, but I'm not giving money to the establishment because I don't
Right.
believe it's going to real young bucks that are going to upset the apple cart. I don't believe that. Why would I believe that? That's not what I
Right.
see.
Right. And here's the other thing. This guy from Texas, I believe Collin County, right outside of Dallas, Talarico, I believe his name is. He's running in Texas as a Christian Democrat. He's a guy that can speak conservative Christian values, whatever those are. I don't know that that's a thing, but he can talk about Christian values in a way that other Democratic candidates can't or have been afraid to talk about. And they are feeling, and he's a young guy, they're saying he's very, very appealing to voters right outside Dallas, that northwest Dallas, Texas area, very affluent, very white. But again, look, Beto ran a hell of a campaign out there. This guy's not Beto. Beto has some fire to him, got some spice to him. And that's the thing we need.
Yeah, I mean, if that works in that district, I'll swallow the Christian values bullshit to get a candidate that can win because I just want to win at this point. But like, I mean, yeah, like you said at the beginning, like that term doesn't even have a meaning anymore, right? Like that's like just to me just a propaganda term that's been used by MAGA to get votes, right? Like I don't think anyone really lives the values or whatever the values were supposed to be. But yeah, if that's part of that guy's shtick and that wins some, in the middle of the road voters and it tips the scales and helps Democrats not get wiped out in Texas after this gerrymandering kicks in, then I'll take it. I'm taking a W any way we can get it at this point, right? Anything to take power from Trump and or unseat him. I'm pretty much on board with almost anything.
Absolutely. And, the thing about it is, Texas is in the middle of this whole gerrymandering deal where they want to try to, grab 5 more seats. Who's going to fight against it? Right? They're talking about doing the walkout thing again so they don't get arrested. I mean, it's the same old playbook that we saw back last time the Texas Democrats had to run from the state and jump on a plane and fly to Washington. Like, when are we going to start fighting back and fighting fire with fire?
So the people of Texas, I mean, if you're a Democrat in Texas, you're just constantly getting screwed, right? There's voter suppression like crazy. And now, I mean, what is it going to be like that, one of these gerrymandered things where it goes like this and it's a squiggly line and it's almost like picking off every black household is going to be one district. It's going to be like puzzle pieces. I mean, but Trump wants it. Abbott's endorsed it. Texas State Senate and Congress is run by Republicans. So like, I don't see any inhibitor to that happening. So that's 5 seats lost. You're going to have to win like 6 more somewhere else.
Well,
Right?
well, here's the thing. Democrats are not going to take a state like New York or, a bluey blue state and fight fire with fire.
Well,
Right?
Newsom has the best shot at it because there are a lot of. You could make one Republican district of like Central California and have it go from north to south, and you would carve out probably like 5 Republican congressmen right there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They'd all have to fight for one seat, right?
Yeah.
And just carve up the coast into smaller pieces. So like,
And
look,
that's
if
what
you
you
want to
should
fight
do.
fire with fire, like California could turn right around and win those 5 seats back. And it's really, arguably really what that legislation should be getting drawn up in the California,
Yeah, they should
assembly
be drawing it up
because
in the House right
it's
now.
I mean, at this point, decorum's out the window, right?
Right.
So maybe New York should be looking at the same thing.
And that's the whole thing, I mean, again, stop bringing a butter knife to an AR-15 battle. Like, we're constantly relying on democratic norms. Republicans are not relying on any of that shit. Republicans don't care about, these families that are being poisoned you know, in Louisiana on Cancer Alley down there. All they care about is the power and more money. And at what point do we say, you know what, this enough of this bullshit? Enough of this, enough of the small guy getting constantly pissed on and no one to advocate for them because of institutional norms.
Look at Chuck Grassley's behavior, right? He's 99 years old and he has like a lifetime of supposedly being this incredible supporter of whistleblowers. Like, right, he's almost staked his entire career on it. And then this Emil Bove comes along. Whistleblowers are left and right saying he just lied to Congress just within a week ago, right? Basically, he told them to go F themselves, go F themselves, perjured himself. And Grassley just steamrolled him through, voted for him. He wins, and now he has a lifetime judicial seat. And
Unbelievable.
so Grassley, I mean, he doesn't care. He's gonna be in the grave soon, not soon enough,
Right.
but right? But he didn't care. His lifetime of being a supporter of whistleblowers and all that mattered nothing in the age of Trump when it came time for one judicial candidate. Even for this one judicial seat, he couldn't maintain, in essence, what his belief system was.
Right.
And now that maybe the last vestige of some element of, what's best for the country out the window. It's just in that
Right.
moment because he wasn't strong enough to take the heat that he would take for saying, you know what, this candidate can't be pushed
Right.
through. Couldn't do it. Didn't have it in him. After all these years, didn't have it in him to do a simple, small thing like that on a
he's
topic
scared.
that's been one of the most important ones to him his entire career.
Because he's frightened. He's afraid of what Donald Trump will say.
We'll
And
say.
here's the thing, Bove is the worst of the worst. He's a January 6th guy.
Yeah.
He's an election denier. This guy is going to be a problem on the bench. And you can't get him off.
Oh, we're going to have to. Oh, the left's going to have impeachments of judges.
They're gonna have
there's
to.
going to have to be some such hardcore stuff. If there's ever elections and if the Democratic Party ever has power again, it's
Right.
going to have to be wielded like a club. Yeah, no, guys like that, no way. I mean, you got to go after Kavanaugh. I'm talking about going after anyone who's lied
Everybody.
and perjured themselves.
Yep.
Like, I don't care what position they're in and what the norms are and whether it's overreach and all those
Screw
things.
'em.
I mean, you're going
Right.
to have to come as hard as any party's ever come in American history.
Because that's three Supreme Court justices right there: Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, and Kavanaugh, who all lied, right? They said stare decisis was precedent, right? You got to go. You got to go. You lied. That's it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, Kavanaugh will be the easiest because also let's look into his finances. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I
Where
mean,
did all
yeah, money has flowed to Kavanaugh, that dark money that no one, and then we could, all these gifts that people have been taking illegally. Yeah, so there's impeachment, there's reasons for impeachment up and down the docket, but we're so far from that because we have to get to, a position of power, and it's going to be impossible without a mass movement of the people because the politicians are losing and they have no weapons and they won't wield the ones that they have, and they're maybe the wrong fighters for this fight. Like it's not their game. It's not a lawyer's game.
So tell me what is white America, rational white America, think about what Donald Trump is doing, just, raping and pillaging our democracy and gaslighting, QAnon and MAGA supporters to protect a pedophile. Again, one of the most prolific pair of sex traffickers we've ever seen in this country. How does white America sit and square Donald Trump's behavior right now?
Stock market's up.
Oh, that's right.
GDP.
Follow the money.
If we look at the statistics, GDP in Q2 is up 3%. Like I don't know if we can believe anything coming out of the government right now.
I don't believe that.
But after a down first quarter,
I don't believe
3% GDP and the Dow at record continuing at record highs. And, white America being like, these tariffs seem to be okay, haven't really affected us. It's nothing. What's affected us? Wealthier. Stock market's up. Who owns stocks? Right? White America owns stocks.
Right.
Anyway, so they're not going to look, they're not spending the time on the other things. I think there'd be outrage over Epstein. If there wasn't outrage over the other 25 women that were molested, accosted, and or raped along the way, I mean, this Epstein story's been out there. I mean, QAnon's the only ones that are surprised by this. Everybody else has just written it off and chalked it up. It's part of the Donald Trump package, and he won the election. So people have looked through it. I mean, Virginia Giuffre and Ghislaine and Epstein getting killed in jail. I mean, that was Trump 1.0.
Right.
He got reelected.
Right.
It's been talked about. That's why it's the QAnon folks, the only ones that are going crazy over it because, like we've talked about, shockingly to us, they believed Trump's BS along the way. Like they're the only ones they feel jilted, right? The rest of us were like, of course he was lying.
Right.
Basically, we were all like, he got away with it. Bill Barr helped him get away with it. What is his name? Alex Acosta helped him get away with it. He got away with it in broad daylight. We all know he's in the logs. We've seen enough, depositions. Everyone knows and doesn't care. Stock market's up.
That's all that matters. And in Black America, I sit and wonder, I think from just talking with some of my contemporaries, it's almost a feeling of helplessness, right? Because we know if we're on the front line, there's a different approach to dealing with us as opposed to, with, an upset and frustrated white America. A Black and brown America protesting is going to be met with a very different kind of force, just as we saw during the George Floyd protests. People.
Just as we saw in L.A. When the protests were basically brown, all Latino. Right? National Guard's coming in, and the Marines are coming in behind them, and this shit is not getting out of hand.
Right. And that's I think worries Black folks. Because, look, contrary to popular opinion, Black folks are not sitting around waiting to, enslave white America once we take power. That is not what's happening here. Most of the Black and brown folks that I know and have talked to, I've been Black for a long time. And throughout my life, all I hear is people wanting to be successful, wanting a piece of the American dream, wondering why we can't keep a job, right? When we see other, peers, keeping the same job for 30 years, right? Never losing money on a house sale, never, having to go long periods with unemployment, right? Never being denied promotions. The things that we go through are so difficult and so taxing. It's no wonder our lifespan is much shorter than the average white American. We're constantly in a state of worry and flux. And it's not a good feeling. I got out of a business that I truly, truly loved because I knew I was not incompetent, but I worked in how many different cities, right? Like, why do I keep getting hired, to get moved out of the way later on? Somebody gave you a glowing review enough of you to hire me, right? But all of a sudden I fell out of favor in 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years tops, or at other locations. You gave this guy a raise, but I couldn't have one. I had to take a cut, right? This guy gets to stay. This guy doesn't. Oh, I had a parallel career with one of the broadcasters who worked at the competition here in Atlanta. I mean, he took 2 moves, and he was in Atlanta. I had to take 4 or 5 steps to get to Atlanta. And, this is what I used to tell our good friend Rick Shelton. I said, see, now this young man right here, and I started off the same time, same place, same market, right? He's been here. I just got here, right? And and that's what slows your accumulation of wealth. I don't have to tell you this. You understand this. Once you start making good money, why would I leave, right? Why would I go somewhere else? I just had a conversation with a young lady tonight, 23 years old, at her first job. She's like, if I feel valued, why would I go anywhere else, right? And that's the thing, is so many times We feel undervalued, don't feel seen, don't feel heard. And it causes us, sometimes to make knee-jerk reactions. And, when I was doing corporate presentations to help people understand diversity and the strength of diversity, and, if you would take the time out to get to know the people that you're managing, you'd be a much more effective manager. Communicate, understand who they are and what they've been through. Because a one salary household for Black America is totally different than a one salary household for white America. One salary in a Black American family might be supporting 2 or 3 generations. You might have a grandmother, you might have an adult child who also has younger children, right? So now you got 4 generations right there. So it's a totally different dynamic. But if you don't get to know people, how do you know what they're going through? How do you know what they need? How do you know what kinds of pressures are on them, right? How do you find out, why they're quiet in board meetings? They'll tell you, just ask.
Yeah, but you're almost starting with the premise that somebody cares, right? No
and
one's going
that's
to
the
ask because
problem.
they don't care. Why'd they care to know you? They're not invested in your success. So, the institutions, right? Society is not invested in the success of people of color. So, like, no one's taking the time to make it work. This is part of why Trump gets elected a second
Right.
time, and Trump's
Right.
America, as much as he got 55% or whatever of the white vote, because he maintains an order that they like.
Right.
There may be disapproval, right? Disapproval ratings, because people don't like the way he does it, maybe don't like the way he says things, maybe like shines a light on the worst of them. For some people, they love that they're emboldened and allowed to be the worst selves they can be. And they can be that raging asshole and insult people and get it, and now have it be okay in Trump's America because he's that way. But then there's others that just want the order. They may not like the methods and the way he does it, right? All the people just say, I don't like but he's making America great again, right? Shit like that, right? And they use the tweets as the negative. Now it's he's more verbal, right? He's just saying shit. So
Right.
people may not like the style, and it may feel like it goes against what they wanted, the impression of what their sensibilities were, but they like the outcome.
Right.
They like the outcome. They like the order. They like the way society operates for them. So they're not going to ask the question of a person of color. What are you thinking? What are your hopes and dreams? What are your aspirations? No offense, but I don't think white America in the aggregate gives a shit
Yeah.
about the success of Black America. It just doesn't.
Well,
It's
well,
a
no
sad,
offense.
it's a sad commentary. Only when we're in times of war or when people are threatened and we need you, so to speak, right?
Right. Right.
But
Right.
even then, you
We need
kind of get
bodies.
used and abused, and then not taken care of after the fact. I mean, sort of like in the way almost all the military does in our country.
Exactly. No offense taken, by the way. But let me just.
Trying to have an honest conversation.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that's my honest view on it. I could be wrong, but
Right.
that's my honest view
No.
on the state of our society.
It's a great observation because from everything that I've seen, that observation appears to be dead on. Right? Like I've never been given any signals that there was anything different. Right? But we often say in the Black community, the Black American history is American history. Let me tell you why. Just taking a look at inventions, right? That people can relate to. We can relate to inventions, right? All right. Alexander Miles, automatic elevator doors. We like those. Frederick McKinley Jones, refrigerated trucks. We like those. Gas mask, Garrett Morgan. Garrett Morgan also, the 3-light traffic signal. We like those. The super soaker, Lonnie Johnson, Black American inventor. The folding ironing board, Sarah Boone, automatic gear shift, Richard Spikes, home security system, Marie Van Britten Brown. Laser photo probe, Patricia Bath. Carbon filament light bulb, Lewis Latimer. Working with Thomas Edison. Hair care products, Madam C.J. Walker, right? First Black millionaire, Madam C.J. Walker. Blood bank, Charles Drew. Revolutionized blood storage and transfusion techniques.
But
So,
Mark, I know about 3 inventors, right?
right,
I got taught about 3 inventors, right?
right,
Thomas Edison, with the light bulb.
Franklin.
So
Right.
I don't know who the black guy was you mentioned that was working with him, but
Right.
never heard of that fucking guy. Sorry.
Right.
Right? Henry Ford with the, maybe the
Model T.
automobile or the combustion engine or whatever, but basically the automobile, right? Alexander Graham Bell with the telephone. Okay. I'm sure there were others that I maybe was, quote, taught, but those were the three big inventors.
We never
And
learned about any black inventors in
yeah,
like Grand
basically
Central
three.
schools.
Yeah, basically three white guys that invented a bunch of big things. Thomas Edison did the phonograph too, so like he actually was a multi. He had a bunch of
Couple of
hyphens in his
patents.
invention. But
Right.
yeah, that's about it. But like, okay, I guess I'm in a cynical mood today, Mark. So here we go again. But like, okay, black people may say black history is American history, but white people aren't buying that shit. And show me a school system in
That's
America
teaching it.
that
Right.
teaches black history as American history. I think we get the black people in the second quarter of American history, not the first quarter, because the first quarter is like 1776 to the Civil War. And it's not till the Civil War do we even hear about black people.
Right.
Because now there's a war
And their
about freeing
enslavement.
black people, and that's the first time we actually learn about black people. And I
Sure.
don't think we talk about them again, maybe, quote, ever, maybe not till MLK.
Yeah, that's about right.
I think that's about American history. So if you can say black history is American history, it's certainly not taught that way, and it's certainly not what white kids
Yeah.
are brought up to think in any way, shape, or form. Right? We had to have a war over freeing slaves for some reason. Half the country thinks that the war is still going on. Right? And it was about states' rights, so they've even changed the narrative. In the North, we brag about what great people we are because we're the ones that won the war that freed the slaves. No one talks about what happened to any of those people
Right.
ever
Right.
again in till the 60s. But usually you can't even do that in one school year, is get through all of that. So you kind of fade or run out of time around World War II, and at least when I was growing up, and then that was about it.
Right.
Yeah, it's just an uphill battle because it's not getting acknowledged.
And again, racism is a learned behavior, right? It starts in the home and then it accelerates when young people are around like-minded folks, right? We could look at our high school and tell those folks hung together. We knew who they were, and we didn't bother with them. We didn't hang with them. We didn't go to their parties, right? We never ended up bumping into them, right? Because we just knew, or you had a feeling. And so, I wish parents would do a better job of helping their children understand that people are human beings. We all bleed the same color blood. I'm shocked when I see stories of, people just accosting folks because of the color of their skin. We don't teach it at my house. My parents grew up in the segregated South. I told you this. My parents were forced to go, my dad on his baseball team in college, right? They were forced to go around the back and pick up their food when they would stop on road trips, if they were served at all, forced to use the colored bathroom. This is after the war, after he came back, from Korea with the GI Bill that he used to go to college. So, after he fought for his country would not allow him to use the same facilities as white Americans. While he was fighting for his country, white soldiers told the Koreans to ask the black soldiers if they could see their tails. So, and my father still didn't teach us to hate white America. My mother would never move back to her hometown because of an incident she had on a bus with a white bus driver. And so she never taught us to hate white America, never frowned at who I brought home or who my friends were, never told me not to be friends with them. And I just don't understand. As a parent, I can't understand how people teach that. I saw a video, and I bring this up because I saw a video on Instagram yesterday of a white teacher walking through a line of students and hugging the students and passing the brown student with a hug as the brown student has her arms out. And it's the most heartbreaking thing you see all day. And you just wonder, what makes people tick like that? And to me, they're not worth, the dirt that they're walking on. But, for some reason, they seem to get a lot of airtime, a lot of airplay.
Believe me, if I was a black American, I would find it very hard to not hate white Americans. So
Hard. I mean, it is.
take a lot of it would take a lot of turning the other cheek. I don't think I would really have it in me, but maybe because I also grew up in a society where it wouldn't be expected of me to turn the other cheek, right? I'd be expected to fight, like, because it's my turf and it's my place, and I should, whatever, deserve certain things and expect certain things. But I think these things that we're talking about, it's like this is, we asked the question, how did we get to where we are today? How did America get to a point where Donald Trump and Project 2025 behind him is in essence reshaping America?
Right.
And doing it in pretty much broad daylight. Like, there's some criticisms, it was done in the dark of night, this and that, but they wrote a playbook. Like, it's out there in print, and they're doing everything they said they were going to do. And Doji cut things in broad daylight, and everything's happening out in the open. We know what's happening, and there's not an uprising. The anger hasn't boiled up because it hasn't, it's worked in a way that hasn't impacted the majority of Americans, which is white America. So it's kind of like a slow moving reorientation of American society. And, look, along with it is the loss of democracy and some other rule of law, like some basic underpinnings that were supposed to be the things that we cared about the most in this country. And apparently they aren't the things we care about the most. You know me, I'm starting to come to the conclusion that America cares about its capitalism much more than it cares about its democracy. Way more. And if there's one thing that America's great at, is capitalism. And the outgrowth of great capitalism is much more of a winner-take-all society and much more income inequality. And that's the natural outgrowth of successful capitalism, and we do it best. And we're traveling that road, and no one's fighting over these key democratic elements. So, like, that's,
Sure.
I guess, I don't know if I'm a little, I'm kind of a little depressed at where we are as we roll through the end of July, the dog days of summer, because there's no fight. If Chuck Schumer's harshly worded letter is the best we got for today,
We're screwed.
or
We're screwed.
we feel kind of screwed. Or praying that the QAnon crazies do our dirty work for us.
Right.
And they're the ones that cause a ruckus.
Yeah. That's the best we
can. That we need a civil war on the right over the Epstein files.
Right.
Because no one on the left
we'll do
cares
it.
enough about those either. So that's kind of where I kind of leave things today.
Yep. 83 billionaires running the country, taken from the poor, given to themselves. How many yachts can you fucking water ski behind? All right, my friend. That's the last word for today. We're over on our time limit. Hopefully
all right, you can edit out some of my babbling, like you always do, Mark, to get more views.
Leave it in there. Leave it in there. Untouched.
All right, Mark. Always
untouched.
a pleasure. All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Peace.
Bye.